Here is another video, and I know that you think it's going to be the last one in this series, but it's probably not. I'm going to do some modifications to the roof and even provide you with the roof in the original plans. Now, in this video here, we have a 6-12 roof pitch on the existing house, and in order to lower the ridge, I went ahead and made this a 5-12. And again, I will provide you with information about the original one. Now, the first thing I want to do is take apart the roof and provide you with some views of that, and then we will put the roof back together. And even though you're probably not going to get this cut, you might be able to. A lot of times I have to build the roof and then have this a little bit lower and then get my saw and cut it. And of course I'm doing that because it's going to be easier for me. However, you can use whatever you need to accomplish this feat. And I also wanted to point out that I ran the row of blocks through here to pick up the edge of the fascia board here. And I usually leave a gap. If this is going to be stucco, I like to have about 1 inch. I don't really want the wood buried in the stucco. And you could nail the block into the framing after you put your waterproofing membrane on. And then of course the block can be nailed into the fascia board so that the fascia board at the edge will be a little more stable. And of course we have our gap here so that the plywood will be able to slide underneath this, along with a bottom view of the overhang. You can see where all the blocks are, and of course our lookouts. And we are using a roof truss system, and I would imagine if you're going to be building a 12-foot wide or a 16-foot wide building, you might be able to order trusses that are already made or prefabricated, but you might not be able to order all of these components. And of course, here's what happens if we change the pitch of our roof and keep the same overhang. However, you can have the overhang match as long as you extend the roof rafters out far enough. And of course, you don't need to do that on the other side, but you will need to do it on this side. Next up, let's go ahead and remove the trusses and the sheathing here so that we can take a look at a row of blocks we're going to need to install, along with this roof rafter that's going to need to be installed. And you can run this farther back if you want to, or even break the block, the center of the block on the seam here to get nailing. But you are going to need to finish the end of this roof off somehow, and this is usually going to be the best way to do it. And again, I'm leaving my inch gap here for the stucco or the siding, and you might not need to leave that, or you might need to leave a bigger or smaller gap. And of course our shaped blocks so that we can get some nice perimeter nailing for the existing roof. And of course you might have a building where these blocks were already installed and you won't need to install them. In a view of the corner here, and don't forget that this right here was one of the lookouts that was supporting the fascia board. And of course we will need to put a strap here to connect the two top plates together, if I didn't mention that in the other video. Of course, a view from the top, fill our sheathing back in, and then we can put our trusses on. And even though in this video I'm not going to provide you with information on how to position these trusses, I will try to make another video and put a link here when I'm done with it. And of course our ridge blocks there, along with a view down here to create a nice straight line for our valley. And a view on the other side, nice and straight. And a view of the trusses with the blocks and the notches cut for our lookouts. And now would be a good time to point out that this method of construction might not be approved in your local area. And if that's the case, you will need to check with your local building authorities to actually find that out. And that would be local contractors, engineers, architects, or your local building department if you have one. Next up, let's go ahead and install the fascia board. A view of the corner here and our blocks. view of how the outlookers are going to support the fascia board. And the outlookers are spaced 32 inches on center. Another view of it there. Zoom in on this area here, and you can see where this section here will be seen from the underside of the roof here. So this is actually going to have roofing on it, and all of these components might need to be modified for all of the metal flashing and the roofing that will be installed along with anything else that might be in the way. You need to waterproof this section so that we don't have any leaks, and of course the board that you installed to make everything underneath look nice. And of course we will need to install some type of ceiling backing, and this ceiling backing will be nailed to the trusses and be able to float with the trusses. Now I have a 2x4 on here, and often in my videos you will see a 1x4 or a distance provided so that the roof trusses can move up and down. However, with the short span that we're working with, 16 foot, I don't really see a problem doing something like this. However, this is just my personal opinion. I will leave it up to you to figure out whether or not you just want to toenail the trusses into your framing or install a top plate that is going to be a little bit smaller and give the roof trusses room to move up or down if needed. And I know some of you are thinking, wait a minute, it's not going to move up, is it? Well, according to some of the things I've seen about truss uplift, then I wouldn't plan on ruling that particular option out. And of course, the ceiling backing for this corner here will be the truss over here, and the new roof truss can be nailed into the blocks and the existing roof rafters also. And a view of the closet drywall backing for the ceiling in the corner there. And of course, we're going to need some drywall backing here. And you can simply nail a 2x4 on top of the wall framing to pick up the drywall there. And you will need a center support brace. And of course, this board here will stabilize the bottom of the roof truss. And of course, you will need a ventilation hole. And that's going to provide you with cross flow ventilation, especially if you have a dormer roof vent or gable vents at the other end. Now this might need to be access from the existing attic to the new attic, and if that's the case, the hole is going to need to be large enough for someone to crawl into this area, and that's usually going to be about 23 inches by 23 inches roughly. And some of you are thinking, hey, wait a minute, I'll put an access hole in the closet, and you can see here that there's no way you're going to be able to climb up through here, so that's probably not going to be an option. If you were going to put an attic access hole in here, it would need to be a little further into the center of the ceiling, and that might not look nice. And of course, we can install our roof sheathing, and again, let's not forget to leave enough space, and I didn't do it here because I just wanted to provide you with another example along with the two different roof pitches. Remember, this is a 6 and 12, this is a 5 and 12. And of course, some of the problems that you could run into if you change the roof pitches. And I will leave it at that. If you enjoyed the video, learned something, feel free to hit the thumbs up button. And of course, any questions you have, email them to me or leave them in the comment area for everyone to see.